Maybe I will, but I knew. As soon as I saw you, I knew. Even if you hadn't told me, I would have recognized.
Thank you. That's been years.
Yeah.
For sure. This is great. This is awesome. Special.
Somebody gave me the
For sure.
Morning. Just wanted to thank everybody for coming out here and supporting, Sidney. And he was a great guy, and he's sadly missed around the city. Obviously it's not my script, but I remember probably in the late 80s, early 90s, back in my fire chief day, we were over to a local business on Shore Road that had a gas leak over there. It come in as a natural gas leak, and back then, we called for hazmat, and hazmat come from wherever, and it was come in by the state police, and nobody could really figure out what was going on there, and for some reason I can't remember exactly how it happened, but where Sidney was on his way walking home at the end of the night, he stopped by and wanted to know what was going on, and we told him, and the hazmat guy was there, and he couldn't figure out what was going on. And Sidney says, there's refrigerators down there in the basement of this place. He says, the Freon's leaking out of there, and it's getting with the heat, and it's forming phosphorus gas. Sure enough, that's what it was. We were there for hours. So that was my introduction to Sidney. So anyways, this morning here we're here to dedicate the tennis courts to Sidney, and we prepared a proclamation, which reads, whereas Sidney Thermopad moved to the city of Sherrill over 40 years ago and worked as a chemical engineer for United Limited until 2005, then for Sherrill Manufacturing until his retirement in 2011, as he raised two daughters along with his wife Rima. Whereas Sidney served as a member of the Sherrill-Kenwood Water Board for 24 years, including many years as chairman, and whereas Sidney became an avid tennis player that could be seen in many of our courts, including his favorite court at Robertson Park in Sherrill. And whereas Sidney would spend countless hours playing and teaching tennis to his daughters or other area kids in the community, and whereas Sidney has given his own personal court light remote to monitor the Robertson Park lights during inclement weather. Whereas Sidney passed away in February 2017, and the tennis court memorial was formed to establish the continued love for his game and tennis courts in the city of Sherrill. Whereas this tennis memorial fund has funded a player's bench and an annual week-long tennis youth clinic each summer since his passing. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the city of Sherrill is hereby dedicated and named Robertson Road Tennis Courts after him and in his memory. Shall it be proclaimed that a suitable sign be attached to the tennis courts in naming the court Sidney T. Memorial Tennis Courts. Rima, if you want to come up here. Sent that to you.
Thank
If
you.
you want to say a few words. No. Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're very
My
welcome.
kids will.
All right. Okay.
We just wanted to express our thanks to the city of Sherrill for honoring Dad in this way, and to everyone who came here today, and all those who have contributed and keep contributing to the tennis fund we started to support all of this, and the tennis camps in Sherrill. We have so many fond memories of playing tennis here with my dad. I'm sure many of you here do. You were talking about the remote. We were sharing stories about how we'd try to convince him to keep it open a little bit longer so we could finish our last sets at late at night. We were cleaning out the garage and saw the squeegees, because after it rained, who's going to squeegee the courts? He would get all of us to come out here. We'd be squeegeeing so that he could play or we could play. And Dad loved the sport of tennis, but what he loved even more is the community and friendships that tennis brought to him and to our family. And all of you know how competitive Sid was on the tennis court. And, he used to coach us, and Coach was the unofficial coach of the VVS team, I guess, the girls' team. But as competitive as he was, he always taught us that competition isn't about who wins or who loses. It's about the collaboration and making all of us better players and better community members. And so in that spirit, I know he joined me in hoping that all of these beautiful parks and the tennis courts here continue to build this community up and help lift us all up together through sport. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, and there's food at our house, so whoever wants to come join is welcome to come. We will have some drinks and refreshments and snacks in our backyard, so you're welcome to come now or anytime today. Stop on over. So thank you. Is there anyone else who wanted to say anything? Do you want to say? Yeah. Did you want to say anything, Shalini?
Oh no, I'm
Okay. So I just wanted to introduce my dad's very good friend, Sudhagaran. Some of you may recognize him also from playing tennis with my dad. But go ahead, Sam.
Thank you. First, I want to thank the city and the organizers for setting up this event. I also want to thank everyone for coming and making this a memorable event. I knew Sidney since 1962. Goes about 56 years. The first day on my chemical engineering class, he was right next to me because we were seated in alphabetical order. And his name was Sudarshan, mine is Sudhakaran, so we were together for all our chemical labs and chemical engineering labs and everywhere. And so we knew him since 1962. Both of us came in 1967 to this country. We happened to be, me and my family happened to be within 150-mile radius of this area for many years until about 2 years ago. We moved to California, but we never missed Sidney and the family. Over the years, both our families got closer, and we are almost like a family now. Okay. Sidney did not pick up tennis until sometime in mid-70s. That's when he started liking tennis. He started, and as usual, as normal, Sidney always went to the top. He always wanted to work hard and make the best of it. And so he worked hard during the early years. I remember him watching all the legends like John McEnroe, Ivan Lendl, Chang, Boris Becker, Chris Everett, all those people, watch their moves, watch their serves and the volleys, and try to learn from it. So he wanted to excel in everything that he did. And that's what Sidney was. And he always loved the game, and he had a passion. This is one of the passions that he had. And he had other passions also in terms of dance, Kathakali dance, and all those things, which are classical dances and poetry and things like that. He had passions for few of those also. But tennis was always his passion. He wanted to excel in that. He wanted to teach. Huh? Oh, yes. Yes, she's saying that, yeah. Roger, yeah. He always watched all the, we used to go to US Open every year and so on, so he taught the kids, he taught my kids and also his kids to play tennis, and also whenever he used to come over here, he used to teach the kids who show up over here, and he always had an interest to teach others. And also, one of the things I want to mention is that he wanted everyone to excel in whatever they do, and that was his aim, and that was his motive. Just before his retirement, I asked him, since you're going to retire and you want to go to a warmer place, do you have any plans to go to a warmer place and settle down there? And his answer was, no, I have my tennis courts over here and I have all my friends over here. Why should I move? And that's his spirit. So this is really befitting what his dream was and also his spirit and so on. I want to wish all the success with his coach, and wish that this will produce and nurture future champions. Thank you.
For my 70th birthday, we had a little party and we played tennis before, and Sidney sent me a card. And in that card was like a biography of our tennis. It started our first match, I think the early 80s, all the way up through, and he quoted some of the matches that we had. I don't know how he did it. But when he said he had a passion for tennis and always wanting to get better, he was certainly that way. And he's the type of guy, if you play tennis, you want to play with him. You also want to play against him. Because when you're playing with him, he's going to be playing his best. And if you're playing against him, you better play your best too, because he's out to beat you. But always in a good way. And we had a lot of fun playing tennis. And the only thing that bothered me about playing here on Sidney's courts, a lot of times we'd be playing and some friend would go by and they'd say, "Hey Sid, how you doing?" "Oh, good. And I knew right after that, that ball was going to increase about 10 or 15 miles an hour. But as we progressed and we got to the point where we're pretty even, then it became a chess game. And I know sometimes between points, we'd sit down. And I know Sid had the advantage when some people passed by and said hi, and then the serve increased. But all of a sudden I found out, about some of the people that he didn't care too much about and some of the things that were going on. If I could get that conversation started a little bit and I get him a little bit angry, I'd say, "Okay, Sid, let's go out and play." Then I know I'd get 2 more points or maybe even a game. But and as far as, he always wanted to play on my birthday. I don't know why. And if he beat me, he'd say, "Jim, this was a lot of fun. Happy birthday." But if I beat him, it was always, "Jim, I just gave you a birthday gift." Thank you.
So, Sudhakaran is my father, and when Sidney first moved to Sherrill, the first place he actually stayed, I believe, was at the Mansion House. So when we came into town yesterday, it only felt right that we actually stayed at the Mansion House too. For my entire childhood growing up here, I had never stayed there before, and it just felt like there was some sort of closer attachment I could get by staying there last night, so our family stayed there. These courts is where Sidney taught me how to play tennis. I was probably 6 years old when I started, and I've had a lot of joy here. I've had a lot of frustration because you can imagine, as a 10-year-old, he did not let me win. He was just as competitive as everybody says. And for every point that he would increase the speed or increase the angle, he would throw his fist up and just try and get under your skin a little bit more. But in the end, whenever I think back on the best years of my life, it's always here, you know. But beyond myself, this was also the grounds in which he also taught many others. I've seen him play tournaments here. I've seen him teach people here. And so therefore, it just seems only fitting that having his name and his memory here, it carries on his name, his memory, and his legacy. And it ingrains him as part of this community forever. And I thank the city very much for all of this and everybody who has helped make this possible. Just seeing his name here, it just is so befitting to it. And so when I think about how this can continue, I also hear about the program that goes on annually to continue carrying on. Because for him, it was, regardless if it was tennis or one of his other passions, learning and striving to be the best has always been his passion, right? Is excel at the best at whatever you do, no matter what it is, right? And so as long as this program, as long as this continues to carry it on, I think this is such a wonderful honor for him. Thank you.
My name's Jeff Lonzak. I'm one of the kids that Sidney taught many years ago. Yeah, it's so cool. Like this for me, like this is hallowed ground. This is my church, you know. And this was Sidney's court. That's the way it always was. Now it's my life. Tennis. That's all I do. I'm the coach at Lemoyne. I teach in the summer. In no part because of Sidney. You know, growing up, Sidney never saw anything. I was kind of an angry kid, you know. I don't know. I was very competitive, a little angry, but Sidney never judged me, never said anything, never thought anything but to say, come over and say, hey, look, hey, turn your grip over a little bit this way. And you know, little things like that allowed me to improve and become really the person I am and the player I am and the coach. So it's just so cool to be here and to see the court named after Sid, which it always was. I mean, it was always his court. I mean, everybody knows that, you know, and you know, I can still see the toss, the toss that would in the I mean, it was, you know, I'll never forget it, and you know, thanks to Cheryl and thanks to Sidney and the family. It's so cool. Thanks.
For those of you who remember the courts over the years, the courts did not look like this. Do you remember that, girls? The courts went in the opposite direction. They were east-west courts. And it was Sidney who encouraged and probably cajoled and even more strongly worded it so that the courts are the way they are now.
All right. Thank you and appreciate everybody coming. Have a good day.